Hi, this is Stella. Welcome back to Chasing Waters. This is a painting that I recently got framed. I show the process of it on my Instagram, so follow that if you're interested in seeing the process. So he put this plastic on to protect it, so I'm just taking that off. In this video, I'm going to show mostly small edits that I'm doing to the paintings, things that have been annoying me for a while, that has made me feel like the paintings weren't completely finished. So for this one, I'm filling in the hair that has some white spots. The rest of the painting is done in oil, but I kept the hair in acrylic because it's from the first layer of paint. But it wasn't completely covering, and I didn't see the point of filling it in with oil paint later, and that also made it easier for me now. That means I don't have to wait as long for it to dry. So I'm just filling in the white spots and really just making a whole new layer to make it proper opaque. I filmed the process of all the videos I'm finishing off today, so if you want to check it out, here's the link to this video. And I also have a playlist with all of my paintings if you're interested in seeing them. I recently bought a glossy varnish so that I can varnish my paintings and protect them better from the environment. So what I did was I brought up the first painting I ever did in oil from my sketchbook to just test it out and test the brush out. I ended up not liking the brush at all, way too coarse, it doesn't really get into the proper corners. I didn't like the texture and the feeling of it. So I actually ended up buying a new one. I thought I filmed that process, but I didn't, but I did end up getting a new brush, and you'll probably see that in another video. Then I have this painting inspired by the Mayan women from Guatemala, and it's based on an illustration I made for my coloring book. And I also have a video on this one if you're interested. The only thing missing here was really a signature, so there it is. And I also ended up varnishing this one because this one was acrylic. I didn't have to wait, and it was a very easy process, but that was not filmed, so for another time. Both of these paintings are inspired by my coloring book, Women of the World, and the second one is inspired by the Samburu people from Kenya. So I'm placing that next to it. It's fun to see the similarities in color and style, although I changed it up a little bit for the Samburu painting. That was also my first slightly bigger oil painting, so it was really fun creating that one and seeing how they still correlate even though they're made out of different materials, basically, or different medias, I would say. I was in general pretty happy with it, but there was definitely certain details that have been bothering me for a while. So I'm filling in some missing spaces, creating some more highlights, also fixing up some smudges that happened on the way and that I had to wait for the drying process to complete to actually go over. And going over paintings is really such a practice to the eye to try to color match to the best of my ability so that it's not too different from the original color that I already put in there. So that's a practice that I'm still trying to perfect. I feel like when you finish a painting, there's always something you'd like to change or you wish you did better or different. And it really depends. You really have to evaluate how important these changes are and if they're necessary. To me, how I've evaluated the situations are based on what is really bugging me when I look at the painting. And I feel like that is something you can only get from getting a bit of distance from it and seeing it from another perspective, or just waiting a few days to see how the painting sinks in on you. It's really difficult to know exactly when you're finished with a painting, when you should stop, and sometimes you end up making a mistake and continuing when you could have been completely happy with it previously. Like, there's no rules. I think it's a very intuitive feeling. I personally try to use my intuition as much as possible in this particular thing, because I feel like your gut is the only one telling you if it's finished or not. Also, if you made it all the way to this point of the video, remember to like and subscribe, okay? There are the two finished paintings side by side. They both still need varnishing, and that's it. And then I went back to the other painting. This one was initially created for this space. As you can see, there's two nails already in the wall, but then in the end, because I didn't really consider the frame sizes and the amount of canvas that you needed to actually frame the painting, so it always becomes smaller than you imagine. So now it doesn't actually fit in both of the nails. So here I'm just trying to make it straight. Apparently it was very difficult for me. I kept thinking it was straight and having to go back and realize it wasn't, but in the end I got it. So because I thought it would be bigger, I felt that it was a bit awkward. So I'm just looking at the two paintings inspired by my illustrations and then this bigger one, and really thinking of what would fit best in the different locations. So going back to the bigger painting again, there wasn't really anything else that was bothering me about this painting besides from the hair. And now that that is all covered up and solid, I just added the signature and that's it, finished. So this is another day. I am creating this painting, as you can see here. So that will be for the next video, so keep posted. So here I just finished the first layer of the painting, and in the meanwhile, obviously that needs to dry anyways before I add a second layer. So here I am checking out the measurements for a new painting. I want to create a fairly big one, and the kind man that frames my painting gave me these measurements so that I could create the paintings according to the measurements. So after I cut it into the right size, and also so I would have extra space on all of the sides for it to get folded into the frame, I poured gesso on the canvas. Obviously this bottle is getting quite empty, as you can see, so the struggle was real, but we managed, and I'll have to go and buy some more. I don't know about you, but for me, I'm never really truly happy with what I create. I never leave a project or a work of art thinking, yeah, that's the best thing ever. I might think that, okay, that's the best thing I've created ever, but there's always something that could have been done differently. What I do think, at least, is like I did my best, and this is the best for now. I think it can get destructive if you only stay there. Like, there's a certain acceptance in it all, and if you lean towards the acceptance rather than imagining it being different, then I think you can, live with it. If I were to work on something until it was quote-unquote perfect, I would probably resent the thing in the end, honestly, because perfection doesn't exist, and chasing something that doesn't exist would not benefit anyone. Then I had these smaller size canvas sizes, and I'm just getting more organized, honestly, checking the sizes of everything and how big the final frames will be, just so I know, and actually writing it in the back of my canvases so I don't need to go and measure everything every time I wonder. This is also a finished portrait that I have another video on, so go and check that out. And I'm just checking if I were to frame it, how big it would be, and writing it down so that I know for later. For my male portrait, as you can see, I painted it very close to the edges. It was actually supposed to be a bit smaller, but then, my hands had another idea. So I actually won't be able to frame this one unless I don't mind having him cropped for some reason. So I think I'll literally just like put him into a frame at some point instead of, the canvas frame. But I did have some things I wanted to change with this guy. Mainly it was the outline that has been bugging me because I painted over it and it was kind of not as evident as I wanted it to be. So I'm just going in here and creating more of a contrasting line, and that way you can also differentiate his face more from the background because they're both quite light. And then I'm adding my signature to finish it off in the same color as the outline, and there we go. That was really everything that I wanted to do with this one, and happy with that. That will probably just hang here for a while because I can't really get it framed, but that's okay. So going back to this female portrait, I'm not sure I'm gonna frame this one in the end, but we'll see. But at least I'm finishing off what I didn't like about it. In the video where I'm creating this, I also mentioned that I'm not a fan of the bottom. I don't like how that turned out at all, and it felt very rushed. So I'm creating more of a direct finishing line of the portrait, more as if it was a statue like the other ones, and that will also make it a lot more cohesive with my other paintings. But that's just how it is. You live and you learn, and sometimes you just have to go back to certain things to fix them, and that's completely fine. So I try to color match the background as good as possible. In the end, I realized it was not really there. So I'm actually contemplating whether I should paint the background again, but this is not really my priority at the time, so I'll see what I do with the background and everything. So I'm filling in the whole complete background of it, and as you can see, it looks a bit lighter. I just thought it would, oxidize and get slightly darker, but obviously it didn't. So trust the color. When it looks like a color, it usually is. You need to know when to stop. You need to teach yourself that at some point you're happy enough with it to sleep at night and to not overthink it or resent it when you look at it. It sounds harsh, but I think that's how a lot of artists think, honestly. Because if you thought you had created the most amazing thing you could ever create, then that wouldn't really inspire you to make something else. So in some way, we should be grateful for that feeling of incompletion, of imperfection, of change, or this feeling of wanting to express yourself in a different way. If there is something on the piece of work that I can't get over at all, then I will definitely go back and fix it. But it's important to know when to leave it alone, when to be happy enough with it, to let the artwork live its own life. And then I'm adding some outlines as well. For this one I used white, so I'm continuing that one. And then I'm hanging it up for dry. And this one will probably take a while because the background will definitely take a while to dry. And that's basically it. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, hope this was interesting, although it was slightly different from what I usually make. But at least you saw a lot of different things in one video.